Hi, everyone, and welcome to Hult's latest episode of Expert Talk, the podcast where we take a deep dive into the ideas, people, and innovations shaping the future of business. Today's episode is titled From Marketing to Finance Building a Dual Skill Set. I'm Gabriel Buguñá, Master's Enrollment Head based in Germany, and today I'm joined by Annika Erdmann, a Hult alum who pursued a dual degree combining a master's in marketing with a master's in finance. A powerful combination for anyone looking to grow in two distinct high impact areas. Annika, welcome. Could you give our audience a quick introduction to who you are and the industry you are pursuing professionally?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Annika Erdmann. I am currently completing my dual degree at Hult. I have first completed the Master's in International Business, and now I'm doing the dual degree in Finance. And I am pursuing a career in FMCG marketing, so fast-moving consumer goods, and ideally in brand management or commercially focused marketing roles, but not limited to that. Before Hult, I studied international business in Germany, where I'm from, and I gained some hands-on experience in FMCG at L'Oreal and Eckes Granini, which is Germany's leading juice brand. And I would say, I've always been drawn to international environments. So I've gone to boarding school, and then I studied in the UK, and then I studied in France, and now I live in London. So building a global career is what was always important to me, I guess. So this is kind of where I'm going professionally.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Annika. It's great to have you with us. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder that this session is being recorded. So if you need to leave at any point, you'll be able to access the full conversation afterwards. Let's start at the beginning. Before Hold, you told us you were doing some things. Did you always know that marketing was the direction you wanted to pursue? Or did that become clear over time, or it came later?
Well, I definitely didn't grow up saying, oh, I'll work in marketing. That became clear to me over time. And I guess during my undergraduate degree in Germany, I have decided to go for a more general degree. So I did international business because I wasn't sure in which direction I'd want to go on later on. But there I had a marketing class, and I think that just clicked for me. It was, strategic, but also creative, and it just felt really dynamic. And that's where I would say the passion kind of got unlocked. And, growing up in the early 2000s, I was always really fascinated by colorful TV ads and storytelling. I've always loved to kind of shoot my own little films. And I was always curious about what drives decisions, when there was documentaries on about why we purchase this and that at the supermarket because it's on a higher or lower shelf, for example. I was fascinated, and I was always interested in why people choose one product over another. So I guess marketing just felt like the perfect mix for me of psychology, creativity, and that commercial impact in a sense. And that's why marketing.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Annika. It's great details, and also it's always a sparkle that brings out the curiosity on how the people think and how they make business decisions. From the brands that you work, like you said, you work with one of the biggest brands of consumption in Germany. Any experience or story that changed your view on business and that it make you like, you know what, I want to deep dive into these topics?
I guess my biggest takeaway that I've had in my first marketing role in Germany's leading juice brand was that it's not all fun and colors and videos and photos. There's actually a lot of strategizing behind it. There is a lot of analysis. So you actually work a lot more with numbers and sales reports and market insight reports than I would have ever assumed. And when I then moved on to work for L'Oreal, I knew all of that, and then I was able to take this onto a more global scale, working for a global corporation and seeing how that works on such a large scale. Like, how do you ensure that a brand is being marketed in a similar way globally? And I think this is the biggest things that I've learned in my internships.
That's amazing. So you went from like a huge national player then to a worldwide multi-known brand like L'Oreal. And I want to grab one of the points that you mentioned, that the numerical side of business hits you when you were thinking that it was all about creativity and marketing. And then in your career, you took a bold decision. And after your master's in marketing, you went to add a second master's through the dual degree program, but you chose the master's in finance. What was the turning point? Like this, just like to clarify to all the audience, it's not the usual road. Like, it's not like everybody from marketing jumps to finance and from finance to marketing. And I would love to know, why did you choose that?
So I guess there were multiple factors to that. So, of course, I wanted to be more analytical to help my marketing career, because numbers, not gonna lie, numbers weren't always my favorite thing. And I believe that during my internships and then also later on during my marketing masters, I started feeling this skills gap, so to say. And I wanted to improve my forecasting skills. I wanted to know more about, margins on investment decisions, because I just felt less confident in that sense. And as we've already established, in real companies, marketing and finance, they often work, parallel, but they don't understand each other, because the people who do marketing are very different from the people who do finance. And I wanted to become the person who's able to bridge that gap. And it was really scary at first, because I had no finance background. But if you stay in your comfort zone, that's never going to move you forward. And I just really like the idea of being, both creative and commercial at the same time. And the growth through discomfort in that sense, even though it was all overwhelming at first, that is something that I'm extremely proud of.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's I love what you mentioned, is breaching the gap and being the person that is the breach between the different teams. This is such an important thing for our listeners. The dual degree isn't just doing more studying for the sake of it. It's about building a wider toolkit, having those skills of being able to speak about marketing, but also to talk about the return on investment on it. So when you have the conversations between different teams, you have some skills related to finance, to marketing, to leadership, to entrepreneurship, that helps you build up your own self as a complete professional in the business fields. Let's talk a bit about the experience of studying at Hult. We have a practical learning, pursue, as you mentioned as well, building that confidence to give you, like, why not I try this position in finance, even though I'm studying marketing, and how you gather your tools to get there. When you reflect on your time at Hult across both programs, what are the key experiences that genuinely changed the way you approach work?
Well, I'm aware I've already mentioned it twice, but I believe the constant push out of my personal comfort zone that I experience at Hult, the practical projects that we do. We don't only, write essays or just take exams, but like during my time at Hult, I've developed app concepts together with working prototypes, something I never thought I would be able to do one day. I've built brand plans for actual brands, and I got the liberty to choose which brand I would want to work on, so it would actually help my career later on. I am now capable of not only looking at financial statements, but I'm now actually able to understand them. And these this capability of actually being able to analyze real company financials and pitching strategic recommendations in the end, that is something that I believe has always really helped me building my career now.
That's amazing. I want to add one more thing that I know that you have done in your 2 degrees. That is that you have also worked with a lot of people from all over the world, and there
Absolutely.
is one thing that you did that it's amazing. I think it's worth sharing. Is that you mentioned your home campus was London, but you
Oh
also
yeah.
rotated to the Boston campus, which is a unique part of the Hult experience.
Yeah.
What did living and learning in two different environments, and what did this added to your experience, both personally and professionally?
Well, so the London experience was incredibly diverse. So just like in Boston, in every group project, I worked with people from all sorts of professional backgrounds and from different continents, and that, you know, naturally just changes how you think about things. And you realize so quickly that business decisions are actually influenced like by culture, context, and perspective. So somebody from another country may have a completely different perspective than myself. And, you know, in London, I have become extremely aware of that. And, you know, I've had amazing classes with, for example, David James, who didn't just teach the content, but used the international atmosphere that we have to offer real career guidance and life guidance. And it made the whole experience feel extremely human. And then when I rotated to Boston, I had all of that in my suitcase, so to say, and I was able to unpack it there and use it there seamlessly, which was absolutely amazing because Boston was the furthest I had ever traveled in my life alone.
Wow.
And it was a big step for me to go that far all by myself, but it really ended up being one of the best decisions, not only because the classes that I had there were absolutely amazing, but I did neuromarketing with Matthew Johnson, where I really understood how, you know, sensory cues trigger your decision making subconsciously. I've also done management psychology, where I've dived deeper into coaching with an incredibly diverse team. And I believe all the experience that I had assembled, so to say, in London really helped me to take it to a next level, so to say, and then go to Boston. And I had an incredible time there, and I would recommend everyone to rotate if you can. It was incredible,
Amazing.
really. Yeah.
Amazing. I can tell you from my end because Boston was my home campus and I rotated to
All right.
London. So we did the
Yeah.
different ones. And I agree with you that the electives is one of the best parts of the year. You're meeting a lot of new people. And I wanted to ask you a bit on the business challenges. Like I remember when we were in Boston, we had the visit of Apple coming to campus, and it was a great challenge. We did similar to you, developing apps. We developed an app for the Apple Watch. It was super cool. Could you tell me a bit more about any interactions with companies, either in London or in Boston, that you had that they were like a wow moment?
Yeah. So we've had a few very interesting ones, and I think the one that stood out to me most was the Brass for Africa business challenge that we did together with Nick Baggett. Was for the charity Brass for Africa, which enables music education in different countries throughout Africa. And
Wow.
we've had a presentation, we've had to deliver a presentation for them where we essentially gave them recommendations on how to scale their charity and how to deliver a greater impact. And that has really pushed me out of my comfort zone, because that is a business that is essentially not taking place in the Western world. And I didn't know a lot about business in Africa, and I learned so much also from my from my classmates, because we were such a diverse group and everybody had a different perspective and everybody could bring something different to the table and we could combine our experiences. And I believe we've done a really great pitch in the end that is something that I will never forget. And also it was great to work so closely with the charity itself. So that was fantastic. Not necessarily the biggest brand. I've had bigger brands in business challenges, but this was the one that stood out to me the most, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think that global exposure to different things, like a lot of times people might think in just the big brands, everything for profit. And there's a whole world with the non-for-profits, for example, in this case, that have a whole approach. They move a huge amount of business around the world. So it's great about that exposure that you had. And you were mentioning a lot about the people, and that's what I want to ask you right now. When you do a master's abroad and you get out of your comfort zone, it's the perfect time for networking, to meet people. You're outside in different cities. And I want you to look back at your time in London and Boston. And if you could share with us any good, valuable networking opportunities that appeared in your time there, and how did you turn these ones into valuable relationships?
So I guess the most important takeaway from me was that you can always just reach out to people. You can always, even if you don't necessarily know them personally, just reach out to them. And I was surprised by how many times Holt's alumni were able to give me guidance for potential interviews, or just other advice. For example, before I decided to do the dual degree, I was a bit torn. So I spoke to alumni just to figure out how or if that's the right decision for me. And I guess the best thing is that networking at Hult doesn't really feel forced. Like, it really happens extremely naturally in group work, or at alumni panels, which are really great to go to, because that's when you meet Hult alumni from different companies. So it's always great to build your network there, and I've really loved attending these. There's also the careers team, who can always help. Also, just to build your network, and you always meet people at Hult, not necessarily, in my experience, not necessarily from attending all the events. While they are definitely extremely helpful and they're always fun, and I like to go to those as well, but mostly it really happens naturally at the coffee machine, in the corridor. That's where I really do meet the most people.
Amazing. It's so true. And let's bring all together now. So we talked about interactions with companies, business challenges, rotations, networking. Now we bring everything together, and we have you with your dual degree program, marketing and finance. You're essentially training yourself to think in a complete way. You have the customer, you have the brand message, the performance, the profitability, and the growth that you get in the business. Where do you feel the dual degree has made the biggest difference in how you operate professionally? Like your decision-making processes, your communication, the confidence. Could you tell us a bit more?
The dual degree changed everything for me, not gonna lie. The dual degree changed how I think. I no longer look at a campaign and I only ask myself, oh, is this creative? Do I like this? I ask, what's the financial impact of this? Is this going to drive sales for them? What are the margins? How does this scale sustainably? I feel very transformed ever since I've been starting this dual degree. And I also feel much more credible in strategic discussions at my current job. I feel like I can really bridge that gap now. Not perfectly, I'm far away from that, but I have got an extremely good foundation that I'm building on every single day. And the overall confidence boost that I have now, and this will be a major advantage for me in my future career.
Perfect. That's exactly what we want the listeners to take away today, is the impact on how you can grow your career. The dual degree helps you grow in two directions. You can combine them to become a more complete professional, and it can open doors that you didn't even know were options when you started. And that's what I love to hear from your story. Before we start wrapping up, we always ask one final question on the Expert
Oh.
Talk. What's your one piece of advice for students and professionals who want to keep growing in their career and are considering taking on something as ambitious as a dual degree?
If you're considering a dual degree, do your research, speak to alumni, speak to the program deans, make sure it aligns with your expectations and with your goals. It is a lot of work, and it is scary, but do not let that fear stop you. I was genuinely scared starting finance with almost zero background, but just talking to the careers team, the program deans, the alumni, that has really built up my confidence that I'm actually capable of doing this. I'm not going to fail everything. I'll be okay. And I'm incredibly proud that I didn't let my fear hold me back. So, growth rarely feels comfortable in that sense. So I guess my piece of advice is do it. Do it scared, but do it.
Amazing. And I would love to ask you in this one, that you were not alone, right? Like there was also other people there that they are
Yeah.
not finance experts,
Mm.
and they also had a successful story, right?
It's great. Yeah, I'm with a few people in my class now who I was in my cohort with, in the marketing cohort before this. And we stick together. We get through it together. We work extremely hard, always together. And I don't think I could have done this degree without them, without their support. They made me feel not so alone, because I felt that others may have a little bit more of a foundation than me, but it is something that has never held us back. And together we learned, and I'm really grateful for them.
Super amazing. And one more question before we start really the wrapping up. I want to ask you about the students that are in the comfort zone of their home countries. Could
Oh.
you say something or send them a message about the value of going abroad, going away from what you know, the known world, and the value that you get from going outside of the comfort zone, going abroad, and getting an international degree?
Going abroad was the best decision that I've ever made. I have grown so much because of it. I am confident doing things by myself. I speak multiple languages now. I know people from all over the world. The best non-career related thing about being a global citizen in that sense is that when I travel, I always can ask people for advice on where to go in those places. I really know people from all over the world, and it has changed me in a way that I would never want any differently. It's something I'm extremely grateful for, because it is a big step. And yes, I get homesick too sometimes, but it's worth it. It's always worth
This,
it.
the trade-off is worth it, absolutely.
Mm.
And you can always go back home. So
You
it's a
always go
good
back
thing.
home.
It's a good thing that
Yeah.
you're enjoying the time abroad and growing your career, growing your network.
Yeah.
I'm super happy to see the growth in you, how you have developed since the beginning when we talked more than
Mm.
a year ago, and where you are today, striving in London.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
full circle moment.
Full circle moment,
Yeah.
absolutely, is the joy of doing this. Annika, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story, and especially for showing what's possible when you invest in building skills across two fields. Thank you for our audience for tuning in. I hope you're leaving today feeling encouraged and maybe even considering what your next step could be. As we mentioned today, today's session will be available to rewatch and listen to via our YouTube and Spotify channels. So feel free to revisit it or share it with someone who might find it useful. If you think that you would like to learn more about Hult, explore our program options and discover different dual degree combinations. For that, you can visit hult.edu or reach out to your enrollment advisor. We're more than happy to have conversation with you and to guide you through your career ambitions. I'm wishing you, Annika, and everyone in the audience a lot of success in the journey of building your career with this global mindset. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight, today, morning, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.